Hello and welcome to the Civil War Project, where I'm retracing Civil War history one person, place, and event at a time. Because the build-up to the Civil War is just as important as the war itself, I've created a weekly recap series that posts every Tuesday. This is your weekly recap for Monday, January 17th through Sunday, January 23rd, 1859. For previous weeks, you'll find them on my channel under the weekly recap playlist. So, let's talk history. John Brown, 12 freedom seekers, and 9 other men leave their hideout in Kansas and start their long journey to the United States-Canadian border. John Brown is a wanted man, as his group is responsible for killing an enslaver while they were helping enslaved persons to escape in December. President Buchanan is offered a $250 reward for his capture. In response, John mockingly has put out a $2.50 reward for the arrest of the president. It is cold out there on the prairie. It will not be an easy trip. They are largely on their own, though they hope to rely on a few Underground Railroad stops along the way. Elizabeth Blackwell is celebrating a long-fought achievement this week. Born in Bristol, England in 1821, at age 9 she and her family moved to New York City, where her father, Samuel, became a strong abolitionist. Samuel was also a firm believer that all of his children, including his girls, should be encouraged and supported when it came to education and other opportunities. This was something not supported by most people at the time. Elizabeth was given private tutors and had no real friends outside of her large family. They eventually moved to Cincinnati, where Samuel died when Elizabeth was 17. Out of necessity, Elizabeth and her sisters started a school, the Cincinnati English and French Academy for Young Ladies, which provided education on a wide variety of subjects and charged not just for learning, but also for room and board. At the age of 23, she accepted a teaching position in Henderson, Kentucky, which paid her $1,000 a year, or around $40,800 today. Henderson is on the Kentucky-Indiana border, just south of Evansville, Indiana. Here, Elizabeth encountered the realities of slavery for the first time and only lasted half the year before moving back to Cincinnati. It wasn't long before she took a job teaching music in Asheville, North Carolina. This time, she had a goal: to save $3,000 for medical school. Elizabeth had gotten the idea when a dying female friend told her she felt her situation would have been better with a female physician. Elizabeth stayed at the home of Reverend John Dixon, who had been a doctor before he became a reverend. He supported her goal and gave her access to his medical books. It took her several years of studying, saving, moving, and constantly reaching out to others before she was accepted at the Geneva Medical College in New York. She had wanted to study in Philadelphia, but was repeatedly turned down because she was a woman. The dean at Geneva Medical College had put the question of whether to allow Elizabeth to attend the college in the hands of the 150 male students. If one objected, she would not have been accepted. Each one supported her, but largely because they saw her as a joke. Elizabeth was forced to sit separately from her classmates and was often excluded from the labs. In the summers, she went to Philadelphia and applied for medical positions so she could gain experience. She was shocked with the condition of typhus patients, which is an infectious disease one obtains via mites, fleas, or lice, and she chose it as the subject of her thesis for her degree. Over time, she became more accepted by the students and fellow colleagues. On January 23, 1849, Elizabeth became the first woman in the United States to earn a medical degree at the age of 28. In 1857, with her sister Emily and a Polish woman, both of whom had received their medical degrees, they opened the New York Infirmary for indigent women and children. Elizabeth made several trips to her birth country to start a similar infirmary there, but had difficulty raising the funds. She spent several years working to become recognized as a certified doctor in Britain. Then came the clause in the Medical Act of 1858 that stated that doctors performing work in Britain that had obtained a foreign medical degree would finally be acknowledged. This week, due to this act, Elizabeth is officially the first woman to be named and recognized on Britain's General Medical Council's medical register. It's exactly 10 years from when she received her medical degree. For now, she'll continue to split her time between Britain and the United States. She is a firm abolitionist and is ready to move back to Britain permanently if slavery is allowed to expand. Ulysses S. Grant has not had much success since he resigned from the military in 1854. While he was thrilled to be back home with his loving and devoted wife Julia and their now 4 children, Frederick, Ulysses Jr., Nellie, and Jesse, he had struggled to find reliable work since coming back to St. Louis, Missouri from his post in California. His father-in-law, Colonel Frederick Dent, who was actually not a real colonel, gave Ulysses land, which Ulysses and Julia would name Hardscrabble Farm. The colonel also gave the Grants an enslaved person, William Jones, to help them out, in addition to the use of his enslaved persons if needed. When the colonel moved into the city center of St. Louis after the death of his wife, Ulysses rented Whitehaven from his father-in-law and oversaw its daily operations. Ulysses wasn't successful at farming and was even less successful at managing Whitehaven. Drought, illness, and unseasonable frosts led him to sell off most of the farming equipment in 1857. In December that same year, he pawned his gold watch and chain for $20 so he could buy Christmas presents for his children. He tried his hand at being a delivery man and sold firewood from the oak and hickory trees on his property. None of these were enough to support his family. So this week, Ulysses moves into a room rented from one of Julia's cousins, Harry Boggs. Ulysses and Harry have agreed to go into real estate together. Harry will run the business and Ulysses will collect rent from the tenants. Though Ulysses and Julia are only 13 miles apart, they will no doubt miss each other as Ulysses tries to adapt to this new venture. He hates being away from his family, but the overriding need to provide for them means he must handle the discomfort. Large crates sit in New York City, awaiting the arrival of the final pieces. In 1855, a new dome for the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. was approved, and construction has been ongoing. On top of the new dome will be the Statue of Freedom, a classical female figure with long flowing hair, wearing a helmet with a crest composed of an eagle's head and feathers. She wears a classical dress secured with the brooch inscribed U.S. Her right hand rests upon the handle of a sheathed sword wrapped in a scarf. In her left hand she holds a laurel wreath of victory and the shield of the United States with 13 stripes. The design was approved by then Secretary of War Jefferson Davis in 1856. The artist, Thomas Crawford, designed the model and then cast in plaster the 5 sections at his studio in Rome, Italy. He died unexpectedly in 1857, so his widow shipped the pieces in 6 crates. Several crates have been waiting in Bermuda, but a few have made it to New York City. It will be late March by the time the others arrive. And those are just a few of the key things that happened the week of January 17th through January 23rd, 1859. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell to receive notifications when future videos come out. Thank you for watching, and as always, I bid you an affectionate farewell.